Ladies and gentlemen, in this video, I'm going to be discussing the new stadiums of the NFL. What are the future stadiums that are coming? We do have two stadiums right now that are under construction that will be opening in the coming years, and then at least 3 or 4 more stadiums that are planned right now or in the process of being planned, along with 2 new future huge renovations. So the first one we're going to be talking about, it is the Buffalo Bills' new Highmark Stadium. This stadium will be opening in 2026. You can see the updated construction photos on it. Certainly, they are right now, I would say, about 60% complete, and it is going right next to the current Bills Stadium. The renderings on it, as you can see, it is not a dome stadium. They did that on purpose, considering there are a lot of dome stadiums now in the NFL with the Bills. That's kind of part of their culture, the weather, the cold, the snow. They will still have that aspect of it, but they will also have a overhang, which gives you the best of both worlds in terms of protecting some of the fans from the elements, but also still the outdoor environment, all of the natural light and what have you. The stadium, again, will be opening in 2026, so the Bills will be playing at their old stadium for just 1 more year next year, and then they will be moving into this one. That is the next stadium that will be opening, and it does cost $2.1 billion, which is pretty expensive considering it is not a dome. It is just an open-air stadium. Over $2 billion, that is the going rate of a new facility. The next stadium that will be opening, it will be the Tennessee Titans' new stadium. It will be opening in 2027. They are in the early stages of construction right now. It will be located right next to their current stadium, Nissan Stadium. I'm guessing the stadium will probably be just called Nissan Stadium unless they find a new partner for it, but you can see this one does have a transparent roof, kind of an interesting roof design to where it's basically completely flat, and then the exterior also is very unique. Now, we've seen many stadiums built like this in the past with the newer translucent roof that's fully enclosed. They do this so they can host many events year-round, as well as ensuring that Nashville, a growing city, will be hosting a future Super Bowl. The stadium opening in 2027. The cost right around $2.2 billion, although I would not be surprised if it does end up costing more, considering the Bill Stadium costed about $400 million more than originally projected. We will have to see when it comes to the new Nissan Stadium. Once again, they're in the early stages of construction, basically a year behind what the Buffalo Bills currently are in terms of that project. Moving on to the next situation, it is the Jacksonville Jaguars and their new Stadium of the Future, which will be done in parts. It is going to be a renovation to Everbank Stadium. It's not going to be a new stadium. Everbank Stadium has been thought of for a while now as one of the worst stadiums in the NFL. The cost of this will be around $1.4 billion, and the exterior is going to be completely unrecognizable. The interior is certainly going to be changed significantly as well. This is a extreme renovation. The entirety of the project should be completed in time for the 2028 NFL season, but because it's a renovation, it is going to be done in parts. The timeline for construction of the renovation will start in February of 2025. So the plan is to start it in basically a few weeks. It's when the official construction timeline of this project will start, and the Jaguars will be playing at the stadium with reduced capacity in both 2025 and 2026, and then move to another stadium in 2027, possibly Camping World Stadium, another place that's potentially going to get a renovation. We will see if that ends up happening with Camping World, but that's in Orlando, Florida. But they will be playing with limited capacity for these next 2 years and then moving entirely for a full season. That's when the big renovation will happen. And this is a translucent roof. It's not fully enclosed. It's very similar to SoFi Stadium, where there is an open air concept, which will prevent this stadium from hosting a Final Four in terms of college basketball. But they will still, I'm sure, undoubtedly get a Super Bowl. They're going to get many different events year round. You do have the roof aspect of it, and you do have a very slick chrome exterior design. The interior seating is going to be changed a little bit, I would imagine. It's also kind of interesting. They do have renderings with that curtain that comes down for Jaguars games. It's almost like extended seating for bigger events like a Super Bowl, to where it can seat more people with the curtain up. It's kind of strange that they would include a curtain in a rendering. I don't think that looks very good, but I guess it doesn't really matter. Either way, this is a project that will take multiple years, that is starting very soon, and will change the Jacksonville Jaguars Stadium. There is no doubt about that. Moving on to the next project, this is another renovation that's happening to Bank of America Stadium. This was announced in March of 2024. There were the rumors originally about Bank of America Stadium potentially getting its own translucent roof, or maybe the team moving to a different stadium entirely, which is what I honestly thought was going to happen. But instead, they're going to be investing $800 million into renovating Bank of America Stadium, which I think is one of the worst stadiums in the NFL. And when you look at these renderings, they are renovating the exterior. They're also taking out some sections in the upper deck. This looks like the quintessential putting lipstick on a pig. I do not think this is a good renovation. I do not think they should go through with this. There is a lease situation. They want to extend it through 2044, 2045. And at that point, they said, we're going to plan a new stadium in the 2040s, which is very odd. You normally don't say and proclaim that, oh, we're going to start planning for a new stadium like 15, 20 years from now. It's just strange. But that's what they've said. And you can see the renderings. I don't think it looks very good. I mean, you're going to be investing another 15 years here with this type of renovation. I think it's a waste. The location of it makes it to where they want to stay here, but I think in terms of the Panthers, a new stadium would certainly be significantly better. This is expected to be completed by 2029, which puts the timeline on the construction possibly starting sometime in 2026. We will have to see if that project ends up happening. The next new stadium, this one very likely will be happening. It is the new Cleveland Browns Stadium, which will be located just outside of Cleveland, just south of Cleveland, in Brook Park, directly across from the airport there. And it also will be a translucent roof, interesting design stadium that has to be built into the ground because of how close it is located to the airport. Very similar to Levi Stadium, home of the San Francisco 49ers. You can see the interior of it. You can see the slope roof design. The same firm that designed this stadium also designed US Bank Stadium, home of the Minnesota Vikings. So I think it's a cool looking stadium. It's got a lot of unique aspects to it. There definitely is some debate right now with the city of Cleveland not wanting to lose the Browns and the economic impact of that. They've come out with their own design for a new stadium. Very unlikely that plan is going to happen. I would imagine they're probably going to move to Brook Park, or they're going to annex this area in Brook Park and make it part of Cleveland. There's going to be some type of deal that gets worked out, but this stadium potentially could be completed by 2028. They have already purchased the land right across from the airport for where their stadium will be going, and they will be building up the surrounding area significantly as well if it does happen. And I would imagine the timeline, if it were to open in 2028, the construction is going to have to start this year, possibly no later than the fall, for this to open by 2028. You're going to need to give it 2.5, 3 years just based on the scale of this project. But I do think there's a very good chance this project ends up coming to fruition. And I would imagine the construction, if it is going to be opening when they say it is, which is 2028, it would have to begin pretty much immediately, or at least within the next 7 or 8 months. The next new stadium that's scheduled to be built is the Chicago Bears Stadium. They have a very similar timeline to the Browns, although there is a little bit more of a wrinkle when it comes to the Bears' new facility. You can see the designs that were released in April of 2024 for a translucent roof dome stadium right next to their current stadium. You also have that beautiful window where you can see the skyline of downtown Chicago. A very nice, sleek exterior design. Certainly people do criticize this stadium and many of the other stadiums that I've been talking about because they all do kind of look similar. This one you could argue is kind of like a cookie cutter new age stadium just in the way it's built. But this is scheduled to, at least they're saying, potentially start construction on it this year. But the team president, Kevin Warren, did come out with a statement. It was a very vague statement that said, we're going to break ground on a stadium this year for sure. We just don't know if it's going to be here in Chicago or in Arlington Heights because they still have over 300 acres of land for a potential new stadium there. There were original renderings that got released several years ago for a new facility in Arlington Heights. However, right now I would say the Bears staying in Chicago is certainly more likely, although there are several complications when it comes to the cost. The Browns stadium likely costs around 2.4, 2.5 billion, as opposed to this one being built in Chicago, probably above 3 billion, or at least around 2.7 billion dollars. There's a huge issue in terms of who's going to pay for that. I would imagine that the Bears would be very intrigued once again in the Arlington Heights proposal, if only to potentially pit the Chicago location up against the Arlington Heights location in terms of who's going to give them more tax money. There was a tax problem originally with the Arlington Heights location, a difference of about $100 million between the city and the team, but apparently that's been worked out. But I still think they would like the new stadium to be in Chicago, although we will see. There was a report that they did want to break ground, whether it's Arlington Heights or Chicago. Remember, Arlington Heights, there is actually no legit renderings. It's just kind of like an overview on where everything would be located because they'd be building a stadium district. But there are no real renderings, so those would have to come out this year, we would imagine, if they're going to start construction in Arlington Heights, but I still think it's a very big long shot. My guess is they do work out some type of deal with the city, although it's going to be very interesting in terms of public money, how many tax dollars are going to the stadium versus private. That probably will be worked out this year. The next new stadium, this is another one that is kind of only thought of. It is the new Kansas City Chiefs Stadium, and there are a lot of different angles when it comes to this project. So originally, we do have the current Arrowhead Stadium located in Kansas City, Missouri. Now, there were several early proposals to give Arrowhead Stadium a renovation, and the most recent one was voted on and shot down. It would have been a renovation of around $1.2 billion. That really doesn't do a lot to change the stadium. If you were to tell me that it would be like a $1.2 billion renovation to Arrowhead, I would have thought for sure they were adding some type of roof to it. That is not the case. You can look at the renderings on the renovation. It is very costly. A lot of it is infrastructure based because the Truman Sports Complex is going to be losing the Royals, which is the MLB stadium located right next to Arrowhead Stadium, which would give Arrowhead Stadium more space in terms of tailgating and other amenities that can be put around the stadium, but it still is just kind of located in an out-of-the-way area. And now the state of Kansas is trying to take advantage of this and move the Chiefs to the Kansas side of Kansas City with a brand new stadium and a surrounding district. This is also where the Cookie Cutter Stadium comes into play. You can see the translucent roof. The stadium renderings have definitely gotten some serious criticism because there's just nothing all that unique about it. But this is just another typical translucent roof stadium that would cost around $2 billion. Certainly, it would make sense. We would figure for the Chiefs' ownership to get this new stadium rather than renovating current Arrowhead, although a lot of the fans in Kansas City want to keep Arrowhead. They love the stadium. It'll be interesting to see what ends up happening in terms of that. Right now, it does seem like it's still a standoff, but they will have to make a decision in the future. And if they do decide to get the brand new translucent roof stadium, I would imagine it would probably open sometime around 2029. It seems like that project is about a year behind both the Browns and the Bears in terms of new stadiums, but there also is that one. And then we also do have the Washington Commanders situation. So the Commanders, 10 years ago, we would have thought they would have gotten a brand new stadium before any of these other teams. But because of the ownership change, it set the project back like a decade. I'm not even being over dramatic, but we know the current Commander Stadium, which previously was called FedEx Field, is a total dump. Pretty much everyone agrees it's the worst stadium in the NFL. So what's going on? What's the holdup? Well, right now it does seem like it's trending in the direction of the new Commander Stadium not being located in Maryland, not being located in Virginia, but being located in D.C. at the RFK site. My guess is that's where the new stadium will be going. There are no new renderings. There were previous renderings under the past ownership on what the facility could potentially look like. Maybe a translucent roof. It'd be very disappointing. I'd like to see this be an open stadium just because we've got so many of those going up in the NFL right now. But my guess is we will probably see renderings and an actual proposal on a brand new stadium for the Washington Commanders this offseason at the RFK site. That's my opinion. That's my projection on the Commanders' current situation. They know they need a new facility ASAP. And so that would be my prediction when it comes on that. And there are articles that say Washington, D.C. is moving full steam ahead in terms of bringing the Commanders back to D.C. after they've recently regained control of the RFK site, the stadium that is in the process of being demolished right now, the old multi-purpose stadium that is, and a new stadium could be built in around 2.5 years. And I would project possibly they could get this thing open. I mean, if they really went quickly in 2028, if you start construction right now, you could get it open, or like this offseason, but it's more likely around 2029. But I would imagine, even with the renovations to the current Commanders Field, there's no way you're going to be staying at that dump into 2030. I just can't see it happening. So, and I would imagine, unfortunately, it probably will be some type of roofed stadium. Very unlikely it'll be retractable. Teams are going away from that because it's a waste of money, because the roof's never open anyways. So I would imagine it's probably going to be something like that. But that is another thing to look out for in terms of it. And then I also do want to throw in one other renovation that possibly will be happening. It is Paycor Stadium, home of the Cincinnati Bengals. They have proposed a $1.25 billion renovation, not just the stadium, but also the surrounding area. When it comes to this renovation, it's going to mainly be based around the one end zone, closing up one of the ends of the end zone and adding an entire new luxury club section. That's the main rendering that I saw. A lot of this $1.2 billion will be spent on the exterior of the stadium and the surrounding area, including getting an actual indoor practice facility for the Bengals, which certainly needs to happen at some point. And so right now they're dealing with an issue in terms of who's going to pay for it. But I have speculated that, yes, this stadium, they either need to build a new one, or there's going to be some type of renovation. But that's a lot of money. $1.2 billion. It's very similar to the Arrowhead situation. A lot of this is like infrastructure or like exterior things for this facility, and we'll see. They're probably going to run into the same issue in terms of finding money, because that ownership, I know, is certainly not going to want to pay for the entire thing. The public doesn't want to pay for it. So it'll be interesting to see how it works out. But this is kind of down the line. This could be another renovation that's possibly a little bit behind both the Jaguars and the Panthers in terms of the timeline. I would say possibly 2028, 2029, 2030, sometime in there in terms of this one. So those are just the brand new projects that could be happening within the NFL, guys. That's going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.